What's happening, everybody? I got Killian Gordon here. We're in Cascade at one of our beautiful houses. This one's actually on the 24 corridor. It's got a beautiful balcony. It's an amazing house, and we just put this one on about 3 months ago. But I've got Killian Gordon here. He's our business development manager at Hosty, and he's just been rocking it, bringing on lots of houses.
Happy Friday.
And then I've got Philip, which is my brother. He's the other 50-50 partner on Hosty. He is in Scottsdale, Arizona right now, living in the heat of the moment.
It's just getting hot, just getting heated up here now.
Basically what this podcast is supposed to be about is we want to talk about short-term rental investing. We want to talk about how the market's doing in our local area, like Colorado Springs and Cascade and Woodland Park, and we just really want to share our experience. We got a lot of experience. I mean, we manage around 130, 150 homes now, and we want to, we feel like we have a wealth of knowledge in this area of managing short-term rentals, investing, real estate investing, and maybe we can share that to the world, and hopefully people will find it useful.
Yeah, how many people can we push new information out to? How many people can we reach and inspire new ideas in this industry and share what we have going on and what we have been up to in this area?
We're a short-term rental management company, but we're also a lot more than that. We're a experienced company, and we're looking to partner with, build relationships within our community, and build lasting relationships and experiences with our guests and our owners, and anybody that wants to join the team. So definitely this year, things are looking good, and of course, as everything's opening up now, people are being more comfortable to travel. I think we're in a great spot because people are craving the outdoors. They're trying to get out and explore, get out of their homes. They spent the last year stuck at home watching, binging on Netflix, and now they're ready to get out. And I think Colorado Springs itself is a great location for that, just because we have the mountains and we have the outdoors, and it's mountains, rivers, lakes, and streams reign supreme, or at least that's the mantra this year for short-term rentals.
Well, it didn't HomeAway, it might have been Airbnb. They did a study on that, and they found that basically people are seeking driving locations, so not flying locations. They're seeking outdoors locations and experiences. Yeah,
rural, mountain getaway. It was almost like there's a word for it when you collect all these words that people, key terms, and they make basically a map of it. And all those keywords, rural, mountains, getaway, family,
cabin,
escape, all came together and basically summarized what you can find in this area.
Maybe people got sick of the digital world they were living in.
Yes.
At home, and they were like, we got to get out of this place because we got to get back to basics, get back to our roots of being outdoors and experience.
We all felt it at a certain point.
Working from home every day.
Yeah, and I think that same study, it was HomeAway, VRBO, same thing, but I think that study was like 65% of people voted they were looking for somewhere outdoorsy compared to an urban setting.
Yeah. Well, what I always say is what happened, the difference between this year and last year, I mean, like Airbnb, short-term rentals were already mainstream, but what happened was COVID accelerated the transition from hotels and other accommodations to short-term rentals. So it expedited that transition of people choosing short-term rentals as their form of travel accommodation, basically.
And I just had this thought as we were all talking about this. There's certain areas you're going to see that you can stay in nice, luxury, Hosty short-term rentals or any short-term rental that there's no hotel within 20 miles, 30 miles. You can get to different areas of states that you couldn't before, at least with the amenities a short-term rental is going to provide.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally places that you couldn't travel to before are accessible now.
Yeah, through the access of
nuts.
Someone's home.
Yep.
Being professionally managed.
And it's not like you're just staying in some rinky-dink place. It's like, no, this is actually it's like staying at a 4 or 5 star resort. It's, it's classy. It's nice. Not all the time. Maybe it's your standard above a hotel, 3-star hotel, but it's becoming real now. Yeah.
You start stacking the experiences and things like that, like the in-home chef experience. Start stacking that on it, and that's what makes that kind of the 5-star experience. And also, people have the ability to, they have privacy, and they have the ability to set up a lot of different unique things with their kids that they may not need to or be able to do at a hotel. But yeah, I think you're right, Killian. It definitely last year kind of fast forwarded the transition from a lot of the hotel industry and hotel travelers to Airbnbs, and yeah, we saw a huge rebound for short-term rentals, and we did not see that same rebound for hotels.
What did you guys see? What do you guys think you saw in terms of length of stay? A lot of what we looked at showed length of stay maybe increased a bit because people could work a little bit more remote, experience the United States from a different part of, a different state, different part of the Colorado, where it may be. Do you think that a trend is going to keep up? Do you think it's going to drop?
I think it's created almost like a nomad society in a sense. Like people now, it's like that new adage, own nothing and be happy. Now, like literally you don't have to own anything if you don't want to. And I'm not saying I agree with that, but now people can travel around to different parts of the country. They can stay here for a month. They can stay here for 3 months, or they can stay here for a few weeks and work anywhere, because now everyone's working from home. So it's kind of crazy, because that's also helped us as well, or helped the short-term rental industry. Do you got any further thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen an increase in the length of stay. And I think, like you said, just because people are able to work remotely more, and a lot of companies and businesses are letting people work remotely, we're seeing a lot more people traveling, staying longer in general. So there's, I imagine, just going to be a continued increase in demand for the midterm stays, those 30-plus day stays.
We were talking about this in like 2018 or being 2019, the sharing economy and this nomad kind of lifestyle, this exploring new places, and being able to have that access through short-term rentals is, even if half of the people who go back to their office who now can work remote go back to the office, but the other half stay and do this new, very cool, fun style of working from different parts of the United States, and maybe even worldwide, I don't know. But even if half of those people still stay in the market, only half go back to working in the office, that's still a drastic change in any market.
What's crazy too about the effect of all that is, now that short-term rentals are becoming more mainstream, it might lead to, and I'm calling this now, but it might not happen, but it might, but I'm saying basically that regulations will start relaxing for short-term rentals over time, because as it becomes more mainstream, as it becomes the way of life, the way of traveling, cities will realize, oh wow, we probably shouldn't ban this, because it is part of life now.
Maybe part of the city for the future.
Yeah, it's like the new way a city should be structured.
Cool experience.
All of our neighbors are going to be like, no, maybe not.
Yeah. Do you think they'll take a look at it, the potential revenue from short-term rentals? They'll look at their rules and regulations because of that as well.
Yeah, and I think there should be some regulations too. I just think, like, don't flat out ban it. That's a little bit extreme.
What brings us all the way?
Use logic. Use the data and numbers we have to determine what's a proper regulation versus just flat out banning it.
Well, you were saying the other day, like, Boulder might be relaxing their regulations or something like that.
I think that was back in, I want to say November, sometime around there. They were looking at I guess deregulating it a little bit and opening it back up. But actually I don't know what became of that. I don't know how I think they did a vote, but I'm not sure what that outcome was.
What's interesting to think about is, all these regulations are being formed around the idea of what people know Airbnb to be, or this past idea of what Airbnbs are, and not really what the short-term rental, vacation rental industry can be as a whole. And when cities start seeing that, you basically can have tons and tons of little hotels around your city with concierge experiences, with chefs experiences, wine tasting experiences, that this is a whole vibrant marketplace within cities that there's been an overreaction to, and then ideally they're going to start to step back and reevaluate them and say, hey, this is part of a new city, maybe a future city. And then those counties further out where they have concerns of septic and max occupancy and whatnot, there's understandable concerns out there, but they also too, as populations move around, the counties themselves, those more rural counties, maybe they're going to open up and say, here's a whole new economy in an area that didn't even really have a lot of economy to begin with. And you start to see that type of growth. I don't know, I'm kind of just riffing, but that's, could you bring economy to different parts of like Divide that didn't have economy before? Now is all spurred off of a short-term
definitely.
rental.
Because you don't have to go start a 50, 100 unit, 25 unit hotel. It's
Exactly.
very expensive. The house is already there. You just got to convert the use.
Exactly.
And that house is someone's vacation home anyways, that they come 3 to 6 months out of the year and stay in wherever. And it's basically just changing the use up a little bit and allowing other people to enjoy that home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I hate when short-term rentals and the permitting and stuff always goes towards like affordable housing, and like short-term rentals are affecting affordable housing. Like that's probably true in some areas of the country like New York and when it gets out of hand. But like here, about 0.25% of the houses that are short-term rental make up about 1,500 rentals basically, and the total amount of housing is like 250,000,
Yes.
something like that. And it's such a small percentage, but we're actually opening up the market to new ways of travel that didn't exist before. So it's like, are we going to take away that demand for that? It's now you're affecting, people's ability to go stay in a place for 1 to 2 months or a few weeks. It's,
And think of all the side businesses or side things that have been spurred from the chef experience, the wine taste experience, or the facials. Like so many side industries have been built off of this as well.
Well, we have like a new company or a new contractor approach us every day. Hey, we just started a startup. Like, I'm going to shout out Can Monkey. I mean, they didn't start up too long ago. I mean, probably a year or two ago. But they popped up for this industry, and now they're serving 1,000 customers in 2 different states, and it's all for short-term rentals to handle the trash situation. But, it's sparking the economy in certain aspects. We have startups. It seems like now startups approaching us every week. Hey, can we do business for you on this or this? Or,
something new.
Yeah. So it is crazy how it's happening.
I had a kind of, I guess, shift the conversation a little bit, but I had a question, I guess, for the both of you guys, and whoever wants to go first, you can go. But do you think now is a good time to invest in an STR, I guess specifically in Colorado Springs?
Yes, the right buy, though. I think one of the things a lot of folks we work with maybe have 1 or 2 homes with us, and they bought that home a couple of years ago, so they sit a little bit better on the buy for the same value home, for the same home now, which, of course, the market's pretty red hot. So I think it just depends on the buy, but I think that you could, if you find the right home in Colorado Springs, zoned appropriately, qualifies for a permit. It may be a little brash to say, but there may be no price you shouldn't be willing to pay to scoop up that home.
That may be the one opportunity you get.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, should they? But can they? Can they buy one? It's like probably not. Good luck. So if you can, yes,
pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, but if
that it might be a foolhardy way of looking at buying real estate, but if you find the right home, the right zoning, you can get a permit for it. It's and of course you want a quality of home, a nice home.
Right.
Well, run the numbers, make sure it's a sound investment. If it doesn't deliver the return you want, or if you don't see it delivering that return, don't get into it. But that's part of what we help people do is
Yes.
run the numbers on certain properties to make sure, based on previous data we had, that it's gonna work. Basically, it's gonna deliver a return. But I mean,
Yeah.
on that point, as long as we've got regulations that restrict the supply in the market, right?
Yes.
So if basically, and then we've got more demand growing. We just talked about that. We've got the demand of travelers using short-term rentals is growing. So it's basically basic economics that short-term rental prices, occupancy should go up over time if the amount of permits are reduced over time, which they should, and then the demand goes up. So basic economics, you've got high pricing, high occupancy.
Yes. So would recommend to buy in Colorado Springs. Absolutely the right home. Do the due diligence, but once you've done your due diligence, don't hesitate, because someone who's looking at that home from the right perspective knows the short-term rental revenue that can be made off of it. They're going to be a step ahead of you for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's going to be
Yeah.
a dip in the market. I think these economics of the market are supported. It's not like irrational exuberance why the prices are going up so high. It's actually supported. Would you agree?
Yeah, I had this conversation this morning. I was doing the walkthrough with a couple of these 3 luxury townhomes, and we were talking about there's artificial caps on the market basically in Colorado Springs because of permitting that, as people sell their homes or in doing their short-term rentals and they lose their permits, the supply of short-term rentals is going to go down. Well, when you look at the growth of Colorado Springs and you look at the vacation industry, and I keep saying Colorado Springs, but I almost kind of want to talk about Colorado as a whole, really.
Or like the region we're in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You start to see the supply of short-term rentals go down because people are giving up their permits. You start to see the population of Colorado Springs grow and the vacation industry in this area just grow. You're talking about a great set of ingredients to have a very productive short-term rental.
We're encouraging people to come out to Cascade, Woodland Park, Monument, because then they can avoid the whole permitting restrictions. And these places are killing it because we just talked about it. People want outdoors, mountain cabin locations.
We had the conversation of maybe where should we look at a little bit more infrastructure. And I was like, well, where do we have the largest concentrations in homes outside of Colorado Springs? And it's, the Woodland Park area and the Monument Palmer Lake area. And when we did that count, it was a little bit, oh, hey, we've got more in these areas. This happened quickly. This happened not overnight, but the growth in some of these areas outside of Colorado Springs happened very quickly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
In comparison.
Yeah, and I would say something else for people to keep in mind, too, is, mortgage interest rates are lower than they've probably ever been, but in a long time, and they're probably not going to go any lower. So when you're looking at long term, holding on to a property, it's probably not a bad idea. But I think that's also going to affect the supply over the long term too, right? People have a really good mortgage interest rate, and they're not going to want to let go of their house. They're going to hold on to it and maybe turn it into a short-term rental or some kind of investment rental property. You're just paying that high price tag right now, that upfront cost.
Well, Phil, when someone comes in the short-term rental market and they buy a home, how long do you suggest they look at it for? Month to month, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? What do you think that the happiest owners are when they're looking at their investment from what time frame?
I mean, I guess that's up to the individual and like what their investment goals are. It's hard to say a one-off thing for that for short-term rentals. I mean, off the top of my head, I would say you want to hold on to it at least 3 to 5 years just to see. I mean, because as you guys know, that first year, it's like it's building momentum, it's generating reviews, and it really doesn't make what it could up to its potential until year 2, year 3, and on. So, I mean, depending on the individual and their investment goals, I'd say at least 3 to 5 years is what you'd want to look at. But I mean, there may be somebody that they use it as a vacation home. I'm in Scottsdale right now, and that's what a lot of people are using it for. And it's generating passive income when they're not traveling, and then a couple months or weeks out of the year they're traveling and using it. So there's a lot of different strategies you could use and a lot of uses you could use for a short-term rental, especially if it's cash
We've
flowing.
been running some data on this, and basically, we ran it on our highest performing home for one, and what we saw was year over year, the total gross revenue increased 20 to 30% year over
And
year.
that larger spike over your first to second year, and then
Yeah, it's remember that was a large spike.
Yes.
We looked at it the other day. It was like a 35% increase the first year to the second year.
Yes.
And then it was like a 20% increase from year 2 to year 3, which year 3 was a COVID year.
Exactly.
Which was nuts. And it's like, okay, well, there's something here. The longer you have a listing, as long as it's getting good reviews, it should, it'll increase over time because the demand builds. And I think that's because most of these algorithms are ranking listings based on not only the quality of the reviews, but the amount of reviews.
Sure.
Because then that means they've built trust with that property. The algorithm's built trust. It trusts that guest is probably going to have a decent experience there.
I mean, that goes into so many topics that we've talked about,
Yeah.
like the review.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, the review systems. Just not looking at it from month to month. The emotional difference between professionally running a short-term rental and also being a host and wanting an amazing guest experience, but at the still having to follow processes and abide by the review systems that a lot of these platforms put back. It goes back to don't look at it a month to month. You look at least a year, 2 years, 3 years is where we see some of the happiest owners and also the best performance of homes.
Yeah.
Is longevity.
And something I wanted to say about the interest rates. So I've read this before, but I think when interest rates start going up, that's when prices start going down. So it's like for every point of an interest rate that it goes up, prices for houses might decrease 10%. But basically, those owners end up paying the same anyways because they're paying a higher interest rate, but they're paying for a lower priced home. So it evens out anyways, basically. So it almost doesn't matter in a sense when you buy the home.
It's like occupancy versus nightly rate. What are you really looking at?
Yeah.
Is it all kind of a wash, or can you get a good interest rate, but you're getting raked over the coals on the housing price, or vice versa? And can you get 100% occupancy without giving up so much of your nightly rate?
Yeah, where's the top in this market?
Yeah.
Geez.
Well, we could talk a little bit
never know.
about the pricing for Colorado Springs in the area. I mean, you kind of talk about how we're defining the boundaries of what that might look like.
Yeah, I mean, when you manage a supply in the market that can have an effect on supply or on pricing, that definitely has a big effect. I mean, typically what I'll see is when we move our pricing, everyone else follows, which is kind of crazy. But
well, you may have heard this when you were onboarding homes, Phil. Like sometimes I hear people say, "Oh yeah, we look at Hostie's Homes pricings to see where we kind of sat in the market," and that's encouraging too.
But that's good. People need a baseline because what was happening 2 or 3 years ago is people had crazy. They were charging like $29 for a 2-bedroom home or
That's
like
true.
a night. It's like, what are you guys doing? But if you have
There was just no standard, so no one had any clue of where to start. So they just, trial and error. They price it, and we're getting booked out 6 months in advance at $29 a night. Well, of course you are. But I imagine those guests weren't.
you must have a great
weren't
home.
the most respectful of your home.
Giving away a little.
But I mean, how is someone with one Airbnb supposed to know and have the data analytics to know how to price their home in court? Like,
No, it wasn't too long ago
Yeah.
where the three of us or one or two of us we'd even go on to Airbnb.com and pull up a few houses around some homes that we were like, think people were asking us to manage, and it was still a data point for us, but now it's
you basically got this
in the rearview
competition.
mirror.
Now everybody's looking at each other. Hey, what are they pricing at? What are they pricing at? What are they pricing at?
Yes.
And then it's just, somebody's got to be the leader and say, hey, no, we're not going to stand for this anymore. We're going to price higher because we know our homes are worth more. We know they're valuable, so we're gonna price them higher.
That's true. It's almost like open source crowdsourcing data or pricing.
Yeah,
Plus, then taking it a step further.
yeah. Because in the hotel world, you had these, massive players. I mean, it was the same thing. It just wasn't as many players in the market.
That's true.
And then dynamic pricing's still new. I mean, what? 15 years. I mean, when did airlines start using dynamic pricing?
Yeah, maybe 15 years, but specifically for short-term rentals, I mean, maybe 5 or 7 years at max, if that. I don't know. I mean, of course, they took what hotels were using, but again, it's a totally different product, a different market. So,
what markets do you guys think are the most exciting right now, at least in our general area? Like, what market kind of lights up your eyes, and just from like a return perspective, as well as like,
yes,
we know it's going to be, it's up and coming, it's exciting.
I love the 24 corridor. I love the Woodland Park area. I'm very excited about the Palmer Lake, Larkspur area. I think that there's something to be said about keeping an eye on the area between Denver and Colorado Springs as far as vacation rentals. There's I don't know the name. Phil, you had sent it to me. There's a little up and coming town, South Colorado. The new ski resort's opening up.
It's right by Pueblo. I can't remember what it's called.
I don't even want to take a stab at it. I'm going to butcher it. But Buena Vista, Salida.
I can't recall.
It's these homes or these areas out west. I think these are up and coming, and I think they're going to be exciting. Seasonality, occupancy is always going to be a function of a lot of different things, but those are all exciting places for me personally.
They might be more of an emotional roller coaster, as in like you're going to have really hot 3 to 6 months,
yes,
but then it's going to be pretty hard the other 6 months, but it might even out in the end at the end of the game.
And if you go back to our BMR conversation, you talk about all these buzzwords we're hearing when it comes to travel. They describe these towns we just talked about. These rural, mountain, getaway, family-oriented.
Well, AirDNA's got them ranked at like A+ markets.
Yeah, right in that A- to A+.
And they're, it's funny because after COVID, Airbnb was at like a B-. I mean, not Airbnb, but Colorado Springs was at like a B- market on AirDNA. And isn't it like an A- now? So it actually increased.
I
know just an A. I might be wrong there.
When we were meeting with a gentleman from AirDNA, compared to LA and New York, Colorado Springs' travel industry, obviously there's a massive population difference, but as far as just kind of markets, Colorado Springs isn't far behind. It's on the heels of these major travel destinations. From what I saw, a very quick glimpse from some of the data you showed me as we were going through pricing.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I wanted to talk about too was what was that we just watched this morning? The thing from 8 to 10. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name.
Just the overall condition of housing.
Yeah, and the mayor was on this morning, and they were talking about like affordable housing, and
yes,
they're struggling, and for good reason. I mean, the materials are so high to build, and it's like we need. Well, and they said something about doing 1,000 like container homes or tiny homes or affordable housing units a year.
Oh, you
really?
Actually caught? I'm sorry.
Yeah, they said that in the thing today. It's like, oh wow, so tiny homes and container units might become actually a form of legitimate housing here soon in terms of like mass population using it.
Well, we didn't even touch on unique stays, tiny homes. Yeah. All sorts. But Phil, you didn't. Where areas you think are hot? I don't think you.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with the monument pushing up to Larkspur in that area, just because, I mean, you can see past Interquest. There's just so much growth right there, and there's so many developments right there, and it's just pushing north. So I think that's a good area to get in now for the next 2 to 3 years when we really see everything push that way, and a lot of growth there. Where else? Same Salida, Buena Vista, those up and coming areas that aren't quite developed yet, but we're seeing a ton of people push out that way that are trying to leave the big cities, leaving Denver. There just needs to be more development. But Killian, you saw that firsthand of the lack of contractors and resources in those areas right now.
Yes, that's a big one. You could say it's those areas are going to be a bit of work. They're going to be very rewardingly challenging to break into. But once it's done and once we do it, which we're practically there with, a lot of them, Salida, Fraser, the Winter Park area, a little bit of Breckenridge, but these more up and coming ones like Salida, Buena Vista. Once we
and it's like get in on the ground floor now for the next 2 or 3 years when it starts to become a lot more developed area, and then prices of houses skyrocket, and then it's too late, or it's not as good of an investment.
I saw somebody post recently on Facebook, and they asked a question: what does everybody think about Pueblo?
I keep it come.
It kinda keeps
Canyon
coming
City,
up, yeah.
Pueblo, they keep popping up.
We've been bouncing around with Pueblo forever. That's been bouncing around, but yeah, it's one of those ones. I don't know.
I guess we'll keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
And heck, if one of our owners hears this and they've got a home down in Pueblo and they'd like to give it a shot, we're all ears.
Yeah,
We'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone can see what homes down there can do, I believe we
Heck,
can.
maybe we'll buy one down there and see how it goes. And we'll be the guinea
Did
pig.
a little
Yeah.
trial run.
When you start talking about Canyon City too, you start talking about a lot of different things that would spur travel, like the Royal Gorge, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a beautiful area as far as mountain ranges.
Well, I think we're running out of time here.
Bummer.
That was fun though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a little nervous going in this, but it just
First one. I don't know.
It
we could
flies
probably
by
keep
so
going.
quick.
Yeah.